Okay. Alrighty guys, let's do it. Hello and welcome once again to the Tripod. It's going to be a little bit of a different pod today, just a quick bonus pod, probably about 10 to 15 minutes, just on who we would pick in our Queensland and New South Wales teams if we were selectors. Obviously there's a lot of contention over who gets picked, who doesn't, etc. So we're going to go through who we would pick if we had the power. Coming off a pretty good Thursday night, a 5-0 sweep on the Panthers game. Everyone laughed at us when we took Panthers against the Eels, but they get not only cover the line, get the outright win. So 5-0 on those tips. Obviously, if you want to get the rest of our tips and info and discussion and all that sort of thing, make sure you're in our group. It's called Tripod Punters Tips Forum on Facebook. And make sure you've downloaded the Tripod app as well. That's for free. You can find that in the App Store and in Google Play. Jacob, how are you, mate?
I'm excellent, mate. It's a great time of year. People should be aware that the State of Origin teams will be officially announced, I believe, Monday. So this round is the final opportunity for players to state their case, and that began last night with players in contention. So we've all been having chats with our friends and people at work about who should be in the team, and you and I, who are betting on every game, giving tips. And if you don't know, I'm Winny, that's Alexi, and we've given tips every game, and we've gotten back on track with our NRL tips. We've also been really successful actually betting on the State of Origin, which I think is the toughest to bet on, but we've done really well historically betting on Origin. We are Queenslanders. We're not going to pretend we're not, but we'll pick the strongest Queensland teams we believe they could put up in game one at Suncorp, and we will pick our most feared New South Wales side, the side that we don't want to face, and we've each done it individually. So this is not us guessing who's going to be picked on Monday. This is personally who we would pick. This also is not a game one preview. We will have a separate pod in a week's time. Once we actually know who's lining up, We'll break it down. So this is just and the way that I think it should work, you've got the control panel there.
Sure.
So you put up a team. We've got obviously your two teams and my two teams because we're picking both states. And whoever's picked that team can make the case. People watching can see the full lineup there. And then the other one can have a right of reply to just question any of those selections. So as you said, we've got our selection caps on, and we'll just talk it out and see who we believe. And also you can also see the comments coming through. So feel free to kind of bring any comments into it as well.
I will. Let me just start by saying my brain is absolutely frazzled at the moment. I've spent the last 3 hours, and I guess if you're in our group and in our app, you would know that the Australian federal government is bringing in these ridiculous laws where you can't get sign-up bonuses anymore. So I've spent the last 3 hours removing anything that resembles a sign-up offer from our website. The shit is fucking impossible, changing links, all sorts of stuff. It's absolutely diabolical. Australia is the biggest nanny country of all time. But I did want to remind you guys that if you are a punter, and you should be if you're watching this, if you haven't signed up to whatever bookie, any bookies, they will be removing sign-up offers completely from any state in 2 days' time. So, if you need any help with that, certainly feel free to send us a message either on the Tripod page or in the Tripod app. I guess let's go in order then. What have I got here first? I've got my Blues team first.
Okay, lead us off, mate. Talk us through it.
I'll lead us off. We can both see us in the photo. Let's start with the backs, with the back line, sorry. So I think Tedesco is a shoo-in for fullback. I think both of us have that. I don't think you can really argue with that spot. I think Josh Adokar retains his left wing spot. The right wing spot is a little bit contentious. I thought about Kotrick long and hard, and I thought about what Ferguson has done last week, or yesterday, sorry. It was absolutely horrendous, but that was in a centre position. His body of work throughout the rest of the year has been great. He's been one of the Eels' best players, and he has rep footy experience. I think it is a big change. I know it doesn't seem like a big change, but to be on the wing and just have to catch the ball and put it down, I think Fergo multiple times was thinking, I've got to catch this and pass it. He's not going to have to do that on the wing. I choose Fergo on the right wing. Then I'm going with Jesse Ramian to go inside Fergo, and obviously Latrell. I think that's an absolute shoo-in. He's healthy enough now, and he is one of the Blues' best players. Now the halves combo is a fairly contentious one as well. I understand that Luke Keary has been playing some of the best footy this year, but I just look at what the Blues did last year. I know they chose the Panthers halves, and they did very well with that. They obviously won the series first time in 9 years. The Rabbitohs have been going great guns. They've won 7 games in a row now, and I think you just absolutely cannot go past Cody Walker and Adam Reynolds. I understand that Keary might be a better player than those two in a vacuum, But I think that and some people could argue as well that you'd put in Nathan Cleary as well for his goal kicking ability. But I think you lose a little bit of goal kicking with Adam Reynolds there, as opposed to Cleary. But I think what you gain is the chemistry that they've had throughout the season, and I don't think you can ignore that. Let's move to the forwards. At the props we have at the top there, I've gone with David Klemmer once again. He is just an absolute workhorse. Puts in every single time, and he's always one of the best players. He's always making one of the most meters. He's solid in Origin. You can rely on him. And I think if the New South Wales forwards can at least match it with Queensland, I think the New South Wales halves and outside backs can absolutely dominate. Then I've gone with a bit of a weird one. I've gone with Payne Haas here. I think that he's been playing absolutely fantastic. I know he's only 19 years old, but he has been an absolute monster. I think guys like Jordan McLean, Paul Vaughan, they haven't been fantastic. I think that Payne Haas deserves his spot in the starting lineup there. Sorry, I forgot to mention, obviously, I've got Damien Cook at hooker there. I think everyone would have Damien Cook at hooker. Jake Trebojevic at lock. I don't think many people would argue with that one. And then the second row, I've got the incumbents, Boyd Cordner and now Tyson Frizzell, that he's back and relatively healthy again. That's it.
And wrap up your bench as well, your selections, because you're still left out a couple of guys, and you've got a bit of a wild card on your bench too.
I do. I've got Paul Vaughan, I've got Tarmel, I've got Angus Crichton, and I've got Gutho in the bench as my utility. I really do think that he deserves his spot there, and I think it's a great utility to have. If either of the halves go down, he can fill in there. If either of the centres, the wingers, fullback goes down, he can fill in there. So I think it's a very, very versatile player and worthy of the utility spot there.
Okay, fair enough. And I've got my own thoughts, on the halves, and I've picked a different halves combo to you. But my question mark would be Payne Haas. I considered him. He's only played like 10 first grade games. I know there's upside there, but there is that risk that he can miss tackles. So for me, I didn't put him in. For me, Jesse Ramian doesn't scare me as a Queenslander. And even he is a young player. I don't know if he's done a lot to bang down the door for that spot, but I know at least he's a true right centre as opposed to who I've picked. I was wondering who you're going to say Gutho comes on for, because that's the problem. You're not going to take off Teddy, but I guess I understand your point that he can cover basically the whole back line. And in Origin, it's so brutal. You need a contingency plan for losing every single one of your possible 13 players. If I was you, I would have probably put Keary on as the utility if I was going with the Bunnies halves. But I suppose that Keary doesn't cover a back line. You'd have to shuffle there. But Keary did play a bit of utility when he was at the Roosters. And for me, Tarmel hasn't got the runs on the board. Let's not forget, Tarmel wasn't in the winning side last year. I can't see how he's done enough for Penrith this year to get into your team.
That is fair enough. You want me to pop your graphic on here?
Yeah, all right. You can show the people what I'm dishing out for
what you're dishing
for New South Wales.
Yes, I've got your
so let's start with
Blues graphic on now.
just on the topic of loyalty, and people saying, Freddie's got to pick the same team that won. I don't think Freddie owes anybody anything. He doesn't have a responsibility to anyone that won last year. What he would have said to those teams is he's very proud of them, and now you are Origin players, and you are winning Origin players. You need to go back to your clubs and be leaders and be week in, week out, the best players on your club sides. And some of these guys that won the comp last year, for one reason or another, have not done that. And I don't think Freddie has to pick a player that is clearly not in the same form as another bloke because he was in the winning side last year. Last year's series was very close. Let's not forget 2-1. New South Wales won game 2 in Sydney by 4 points, I believe. And they had a man in the bin and had to withstand, 10 straight minutes of goal line defence. If Queensland breaks one of them, New South Wales might not have won the series, and then nobody is screaming for loyalty. So just keep that in mind. I have all the same backline as you, so no need to debate. The only position that I didn't have the same, was right centre. So I agreed. I think Fergo, shocker last night.
Yes.
But he's been the form winger of the comp. He won the comp last year with the Roosters. He's done enough to get back and show he's definitely, Origin level. And I'm picking Kotrick. And that's just more on ability, athleticism. And he's done enough for me just in that one start at right centre against the Bunnies to prove he can do it. So I think Kotrick scares your opponent. And I think looking at my back five,
I think
how lethal does my back five look?
Kotrick has been fantastic. And I really debated putting him there at right wing, obviously, like I said. I just really think that come Origin time, I did try to give some preferential treatment to people that were specialists in their position. So
Yeah,
continue.
and that's fair enough. And if I have a weakness of my backline, it is the defensive combination between Kotrick and Fergo. The New South Wales right side defence has to defend Queensland coming at them with Munster, with Ponga and Oates. So that's why people are throwing names out there like Josh Morris, just purely because they want to tighten up their defence. But for me, I think that you still need athleticism out there to deal with that. That what I've put up there now for New South Wales would be the scariest back five from a Queensland point of view. Now, in the halves, for me, what I ultimately had to decide was who do I build my halves around? Is it Keary or Walker? I believe Keary is the better player. I think you look back to the finals last year and obviously the grand final, when it matters the most, he was the best player. He played for Australia last year. He got a concussion in the game Australia lost to New Zealand very early, so you can't even say that, he failed in that game, really. He started this year on fire. Now, you talk about combinations. You can either do what you did with the Rabbitohs 6, 7, 9, all from the same team. But let's not forget, if you pick Keary, you got the combo with Teddy, you got the combo with Latrell, you got the combo with Cordner. So either way, and Luke Keary and Adam Reynolds, who I've got in the halves, won the comp together at the Bunnies in 2014. So there's still a little bit of combination there. Nathan Cleary, to me, here's the dirty little secret of last year. Cleary was not great last year.
True.
Cleary got smashed by GI in the middle of the field and got up and withstood it. He made a great covering tackle where I think he tackled Valentine Holmes into touch, and they won the game. He kicked some goals, and everyone said, oh, look how good he did as a 19-year-old. Had they lost, as I said before, and it was close, then people would have been looking for an answer and it wouldn't be Cleary. So as much as you can say he was there and they won, and he hasn't done enough, and he was great last night. I'm not sure if he got man of the match, but Penrith probably doesn't win last night without him. But that's
the best game he's played all season.
Yeah, that's his best game. So he wasn't in it. I put my toughest omission as Mitchell Pearce. I actually believe Mitchell Pearce has been the best 7 in the comp, especially I can't ignore what he's done the last month. And I know a lot of people say he's failed time and time again at Origin. I actually don't pick Mitchell Pearce because I heard an interview with him with NRL where he just vehemently said he doesn't really want it. He's just focusing on the Knights. He said he's had his chance. And if the guy really doesn't want it, then I'll pick Adam Reynolds. I think Adam Reynolds has got the in-play kicking, your goal kicking. If you don't pick Reynolds, I mean, Latrell could still be your goal kicker.
Right, but it's a downgrade.
But Reynolds is a little bit better, even though his kicking's been sketchy this year. Reynolds is the more upside in attack. So I went that way. In my back row, I had no hesitations picking any of my starting forwards, and we've already spoken about that. Off the bench, I think Crichton he's an incumbent, deserves his spot. I think Cam Murray, you can't ignore his form, so I picked him as a game breaker. Yep. Over even a guy like Radley. Maybe Radley gets hurt because he's had to play out of position for Roosters. So I said I can't ignore Cody Walker, so I put him in 14, and I think, Walker can play fullback and stuff. That's your contingency that you need to just cover the back line. So, of course, you'd rather have him in there, but you can't have everyone. So I've got Walker as utility. And then I really needed a prop as my 17th player, and I was looking very closely at Payne Haas, Matt Lodge as well. Tarek Sims, not really a prop, but just another big body. Jordan McLean, but I went with Dale Finucane. I feel he won't let you down. He's played in 5 of the last 7 grand finals, Storm system, and he's a big body. And the team that I've got there, another weakness is it's short on props, but I suppose with Finucane, Frizzell, Gerbo, they can all play in the middle. They can spell the props, reshuffle, because those guys can all play big minutes.
Oh, absolutely.
So did you have any gripes with my New South Wales side?
No, seems fine with me. I guess I'd like to see how Kotrick does in the centres there. But yeah, I mean, surely, as a player, Kotrick definitely scares you more than Ramian does. I mean, individually in a vacuum, he is a much better player. And yeah, can't argue, obviously, with putting Keary in there. But yeah, I just thought that Cody Walker has earned himself a place in the spot. And like you said, with Mitchell Pearce saying he didn't want to play, I've heard interviews with Cody Walker, the guy, it would be absolutely stoked to play. So, and I know that it's been by far his best year this year. I mean, the guy is scoring tries like it's going out of fashion. But we're through 10 weeks now. It's not just a fluke. The guy is playing the best footy of his
But honestly,
career.
It's that close, isn't it? So let's see how Keary goes tonight and what should be a good one against Knights. And let's see how those Bunnies players go against Tigers, because we've tipped the Tigers to keep that close tomorrow. It honestly could come down to this weekend.
And, if you're a Blue supporter, don't be crying that someone got left out and you had to pick someone else, because you have the luxury of choice. Queensland does not have the luxury of choice that New South Wales does, especially this year, and I guess last year a little bit as well. All right, I've got my Queensland team there up on the board. We'll start with the fullback. It has to be Kalen Ponga. There's no one else there. Darius Boyd has ruled himself out. Thank Christ as well, because Kalen Ponga has been one of the best fullbacks in the comp. The Knights are on a 4-game win streak. He's been absolutely crushing it. He deserves his spot there. The wingers, I've gone with Corey Oates. He's been there before. He has been having a solid season. And I watched those Broncos teams play. I know they've won 2 games in a row, but even when they were, going on that losing streak, he was the best player on the park half the time. So I've got Corey Oates and Dan Gagai there. Will Chambers inside Dan Gagai. And then I have gotten with Michael Morgan at left centre. I know we're a little bit thin on specialist centres, I guess. I guess you could throw Heimel Hunt in there. And I would throw Heimel Hunt in there if Daly Cherry Evans can't go. And then I'd put Michael Morgan into the halves. But at this point, I'm hoping Cherry Evans can play. And if he does, he should be in there. Cam Munster, obviously. But I think Daly Cherry Evans, you have to choose him if he's healthy. I think that he can steer that Queensland side around the park. His in-game kicking is solid, and it gives Munster kind of a solid half to play with, and it lets him be a little bit more, do his flashy shit that he likes to do. So I certainly like those halves, and that'll at least give us a fucking fighting chance. But yes, if Daly Cherry Evans is out, I think Morgan has to go in there. Despite the Cowboys' troubles this year, I think he has been, he's been trying to probably create a bit too much just because the Cowboys have been struggling. But since they've gotten Taumalo back and the forwards are rolling a little bit more, he does look a little bit better.
Well, on that note, because I've picked the same backline 1 to 7 as you, so I'll just throw up what the other alternative. I haven't heard Heimel Hunt thrown in there. I would be picking Kyle Felt. Not that he's done a lot and he's been injured this year, but you've got a specialist winger who can hold his own. You put Felt on the wing, you move Gagai to centres. He's played plenty of centres, and I agree. This is in a case if DCE couldn't go, and that's the wild card because he's not playing this weekend, and the ankle's meant to be touch and go for game 1. But yeah, and then I would also agree with you, put Morgan in the 7 beside Munster.
Yep, and then at hooker, I'll cop a lot of shit for this, but I've gone Reid Marnie. You look at the hookers that Queensland has to choose from. Obviously, McCulloch is out, which is huge for Queensland. That's absolute stain on our existence. But you look at his body of work this year. The Eels have been playing very, very good football. You look through the stats. His stats, I know that we like to say, let's bring back Cam Smith, His stats are fairly similar to Cam Smith. Granville was one that was obviously the next choice up, but I really do think he has been having an average year. And in terms of, playmaking and that sort of stuff, I don't want him in there. I know the obvious choice is to put Ben Hunt at hooker, but like I said to you, I really do think that I'd like to have a specialist hooker in there, and I just don't want Ben Hunt in my starting side. So what? Fucking sue me.
One thing that you just said then about the Eels have played well, but we did just watch them last night fail against Penrith.
True,
the week before failed against the Cowboys. I think you've got a little bit of an Eels bias in picking these bolters in Reid Marnie and Gutho for New South Wales.
Gutho's been playing very, very good football. I mean, the Eels have been playing. Let's not say it's just last week. Obviously, the Panthers beat the Eels last night, but the Eels' body of work through the first 10 seasons has been much, much better than the Panthers.
Yeah, for sure. And before you get to your forwards, maybe let's talk about Cam Smith, because I wanted to ask you, there's obviously these whispers, would he come back? And I wonder, do you think he should, and do you think Queensland should pick him?
Oh, if he came back, I definitely think we should pick him. Absolutely. Do you not?
Well, the thing is, everyone's saying, Alfie Langer came back, Queensland needs him, everything like this. To me, it's everything they're saying, he'd be a hero if he came back because they really do need a hooker. They need a leader. They don't have an obvious captain. I'll ask you as well who you would pick to captain Queensland. And they don't have a goal kicker. So you should pick him, but all that fairy tale only works if he comes back and Queensland wins a series. Now, Queensland are going to be underdogs. We're not going to
100%.
Preview the series right now, but they will be underdogs. Now, what does it do? He went out on a high. Don't forget he captained them to coming down from one game down in 2017. They won an epic game 2 and they won game 3 at home. He said it was his best performance, one of his most favourite Origin performances ever. Game 3, wins the series and goes off into the sunset. And he had all his reasons to not play last year. So if he came back and went against all that and then Queensland lost, then I feel like it leaves a foul taste in the mouth. It's only a great scenario if he comes back and leads them to a win. That's the dilemma. But I'm with you. Of course, if it's up to me, if we get the choice, we prefer to have Smith there.
That would be like an Alfie Langer type comeback there. I mean, you're even a bigger underdog than in last year's series. You've been part of an 8-year dynasty, and you come back after they've lost last year. You're a big dog this year, and then you come out and win. That would be absolutely massive. And then in the forward, so I've put Josh Maguire at lock, and the reason being is, if Jai Arrow would be healthy, he would be there for me. But the report's coming out, and I don't know if you've heard anything in the last couple of hours or whatnot, but he's not going to play this week, it looks like. And initial reports when it first came out was sort of 1 to 4 weeks he'd be out. So, I mean, it's touch and go. Look, if he's healthy, I'm going to put him in there. And I'm going to drop someone on my bench. I'm keeping Josh Maguire, obviously. But, at this stage, I've got Josh Maguire in there. If Jai Arrow is healthy and can prove himself to be fully healthy, then I'd put him in. But if he's 80%, then I'm probably sticking with Josh Maguire there. In the second row, I think you have to have Kaufusi in there. He's always been very, very solid, absolute workhorse. I'm putting Matt Gillette back in there. Then the props, I think you can't ignore Josh Papali. He's been great this year. And on the other side, I know this will be contentious, and I knew what you were going to say when I put this down. But I've put Matt Scott in there. Matt Scott has been playing some very, very solid football as of recent weeks. I know that he's old, but I really think that, as a Queensland team, you're underdogs. You need that leader that's been there, done that before, and I think he really does bring that to the team. You know what you're getting with him. He's going to put in for every single minute he's on the park, and he can be a bit of a leader for these younger blokes that are in the team as well. So I think his form has not been that bad as of the past few weeks. I think he deserves his spot there, and you know what you're going to get. You're going to get 100% performance, even though he's obviously not at this physical peak. I know he's old, but he has been playing well of late. Then on my bench, I've gone with David Fafita. He's been playing good football. Tim Glasby played last year, always solid. And I've gone with Offengawi as well. And then I do actually have Ben Hunt as the utility, because obviously he can come on if things start breaking down at hooker. He can fill in the halves, and he's a little bit versatile in that way. I would say that my toughest omissions in this one, first of all, Jake Granville, I guess, because that seems like the more obvious choice. Obviously, Ben Hunt seems like the obvious choice and probably what they will go with. But Granville probably thinks that he's the best hooker out of the possible specialist hookers at the moment. And Jared Wallace as well was a tough leave out for me.
Yeah, I have to have Wallace in mind. I mean, looking at yours as well, I didn't pick David Fafita. And another guy that you haven't picked, which you should have, and he has to be there, is Big Puppy. And,
no, he doesn't.
He hasn't had the best year, he didn't have a good off season. I don't know if you heard, but he's obviously had injury and suspension as well. But there's no other reason than this. Go to NRL.com. They did the player poll. They released the results.
Yep.
And they asked every player in the NRL or whatever, whoever they asked, who hits the hardest in the NRL. And he was consensus choice, Dylan Nupper, biggest hitter in the NRL.
He looks disinterested this year. I don't know. I understand.
To have him. And he's the perfect bench prop to just come on and just lay to waste people. He doesn't have to play big minutes.
He hasn't
but he's
laid
got
to
the
waste
experience.
anyone this year.
Napa, Big Red, he has to be in the side. So have you got my squad up there now?
I've got your squad up there now.
That was my argument about your forwards. But let me rewind to my back. So as I said, I've got the same as you. I hesitate to put Morgan in left centre. I'm a little bit picking him on trust. He has played in winning Queensland teams out of position in the centres, and he's done a job. And you talk about this team needs some leadership. I mean, he is a leader. He's a captain of his team. I wouldn't pick him captain. I actually am picking DCE as captain if he can play. I don't know if you had thoughts. I just feel I love having one of your halves as your captain. He's got experience being a captain, just like the little things, talking to the referee. That's why I'd lean to DCE over Gillette. And Gillette's played 20 more origins. 100%. But I just prefer it being a guy who's in the middle of the field who has his finger on the pulse and just can work the refs. If he feels
like they're tired, he can talk to the ref for 30 seconds.
Yeah, there's just the little nuances that I feel DCE actually could do a good job, and he said he wanted it. So that's that. And I already mentioned that my backup plan would be Felt to get a wing spot. We're very thin, and Kevy Walters is going to be watching this whole round holding his breath, because you said New South Wales has the luxury of depth. Queensland do not.
No, we don't.
I mean, another guy you didn't even mention, Jake Friend. I mean, I would have picked him as my hooker had he been healthy. He's another guy who is not. So that's what makes things so tough. So if you want to shoot up to my forward pack, I'm going Josh Maguire to start, and I think this is a little bit out of the box. And I've heard that they might do this. They've tipped him off to practice his dummy half passing. He's done it before. He started at hooker for Broncos and maybe even played some hook at times for Queensland. And what I love about that is the game is not going to be open in the first 20 minutes. So you have an extra forward on the field, so it stouts up your defence, extra forward in the middle of the field, and he's only got to, drop it off to people early on. And then I am picking Ben Hunt to be the hooker for 50 to 60 minutes because he did a good job in but game 3 last year, which Queensland did win. He's an underrated defender. He has the rep experience. We've seen him fail when all the pressure's been put on him at halfback. In these teams, he's not my choice. But at hooker, I don't think he lets you down. And with the lack of options, I'm not picking Reid Marnie. To me, that was like a cute pick to show, oh yeah, there's an eye to the future there. But I don't think you can seriously expect a better 80-minute performance from Reid Marnie than Ben Hunt, in 10 days' time, just what they've done. And I know the Dragons have struggled this year, so I'm going Hunt off my bench, but to play the majority of the role at hooker, and then Maguire can slot into the forward rotation. The back row picked itself for me. Arrow, that's heartbreaking if he can't go.
Yep.
We'll see how that plays out, but has to be there.
He's healthy.
And then obviously Carpusi and Gillette, that's easy.
Yep.
I think Jared Wallace has done enough this year. And who's my other starting prop?
Papali. You've got Papali in there again.
Oh yeah, Papali, that's easy as well. And then my bench, I think G.I. Joe is very solid, even though he's played off the bench for Brisbane. I think, he doesn't let you down. He's really improved, fit as a fiddle and really solid, strong pick there. I looked at these guys like, Gavin Cooper, Matt Scott. There's, the experience and leadership. But if maybe I've got a anti-Cowboys bias, and I haven't been picking any Cowboys players.
You 100% do.
If I had to pick a Cowboys forward, I'm picking Cohen Hess. Because it's for a bench spot, you might only get 20 minutes, and I trust him, his upside. He's played, he's been blooded. He can break tackles, and on the goal line, remember that season where Hess was actually leading the comp in tries scored? There's something to be said for a forward who can bust the game open in a moment. Whereas Matt Scott, you said you know what you're going to get, but there's a very limited ceiling on you guys like Gavin Cooper and Matt Scott. Those are the guys who played in that Queensland team that lost by 26 points at home at the start of 2017. Their time is over. So I would pick a young bloke. If not those guys, I'd pick a David Fafita as that kind of wildfire kind of bloke on the bench.
Break the game, yeah. That's what you need in Origin, I feel, because it's like we say, it's always a tight arm wrestle game. It's generally low scoring, but what you need is those game breakers, like your David Feeders, like you said, that can just.
And the thing is that you look at my starting side, Gillette can play the majority of the game. Hopefully Arrow, hopefully Offengawi. So your bench forwards, yes, they cover injury, but you mainly be using them for 10, 15-minute spells. So it's different where you want them to come on and impact the game. And I think that my bench guys are impact players. When I talk about guys like Dylan Napa and Cohen Hess, if I was to, go that direction. But I actually picked, I think Glasby has just done enough to retain his spot again with incumbency and with the form that he's shown in the last month of the Knights, thanks to that winning streak. So that's the side I've picked. I hope Queensland picks something very similar to that. We'll wait and see. And then obviously we will let people know when we'll do a breakdown and a preview of game one. That might not be for, another week or so, but for now, that's just our speculation, and it's always fun to chat Origin and let us know if you have any difference of opinion. Alex, let us know if there were any comments we need to share. Otherwise, we can get out of here. People, we can get ready for Friday night footy.
I'll share 2 comments about your team. I hope to dear God that Jai Arrow is healthy. Like I said, I mean, if he is healthy, you'd certainly put him in there. And I know you're going to cop shit for this. It is. I mean, I commend you for your, thinking outside the box in terms of Josh Maguire at hooker. But that first 20 minutes is going to be grim and slow and bad service out of dummy half. And I do not want an unconfident Ben Hunt that's lost 4 games on the trot, who we know gets down on himself when he's not confident, and he's lost 4 in a row. Do I really want him playing 60 to 65 minutes in a Queensland jersey? I don't. So that's why I know you had him on the bench as well. I have him on the bench in case of emergency, not to play the majority of the game. That'll do it, guys. Make sure you are in our group and in the app. Like I said, we went 5-0 on tips yesterday. We've got a bunch more tips on the games for tonight, so make sure you're in the group. It's good banter in there. And we will see you guys on Wednesday at 6 p.m. on this page to break down. We'll see you Sunday to recap round 11 in the NRL and hopefully another winning weekend. Anything else?
Last week we quietly won 16 best bets in a row, spanning from Thursday to early Saturday, and just quietly now we're working on a little 9 best bet winning streak. We've won 9 in a row, and these are 50-50 tips. And this is rolling into the next game. Now, the next game, we've got a couple tips where we need the Titans to show up, and we put these bets on Wednesday before we knew about Jai Arrow, who is the Titans' best player. So we don't feel super confident, but sometimes you make a bet and the injury news doesn't go your way. The game hasn't been played yet. There's still a chance, but we're a little less confident than we would be in a typical bet. But hey, let's see how it goes. And there's a game thread. We'll be there to discuss the action as it plays out.
I guess we got unlucky with the Titans. We got a little bit lucky with the Knights
Cooper Cronk
against the Roosters.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. It goes both ways.
Goes both ways indeed. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you at 6 p.m. on Sunday. Catch you then.
Cheers, lads.